we thank all of you pilgrims for coming out tonight. Nice to see a few pilgrims. I was looking at that picture up there, and I think we have about the same number here that are on that picture up on the wall. Well, I am sorry to have to say that Dr. Paul Caram will not be here tonight. Actually, they connected with somebody that had COVID, so they're quarantining themselves there in Ulysses. So this is the first year they have missed coming to Erie for Thanksgiving in 50 years or something. I don't know. Anyway, we do want to rejoice and be thankful because it's Thanksgiving Eve. And in reflection of this past year, past 9-10 months, as Victoria said, there may not seem to be a lot of things to be thankful for. When you think of everything that has befallen us, I've never seen a year quite like this before in my 75 years. But we have known of marriage plans that have been disrupted. In fact, we had actually Jane's relatives. They were planning on getting married and going to London for their honeymoon, and all of that was messed up. A lot of travel plans were disrupted this year. I was supposed to be in a number of places myself, but they were disrupted. Graduation services canceled. We've seen people who had plans for college and school activities and all of that disrupted or canceled. Job losses, fortunately none here. And quarantines, and we've known a few people that have been infected by the pandemic. In fact, our neighbors actually they're quarantined right now. And there have been deaths too. Thankfully, none here. But relatives haven't even been able to get to the funeral, allowed to attend. So are we still thankful for everything that God has done for us? Can we still be thankful? I mean, when you think of situations in Scripture and through history, you can pick out classics like Job. I mean, after all that befell him, he still blessed God, and actually that word bless has the connotation of thanksgiving. But can we still rejoice in the Lord? Think in the old movie classic, Pollyanna, the one minister, she was making reference to her father had found 800 rejoicing texts in Scripture. I never tried to count them out, but there are quite a few. In fact, there's probably about 130 references to Thanksgiving or giving thanks. Well, when we consider the pilgrims who came to this country 400 years ago this year, as a matter of fact, has everybody been here to Plymouth Rock? You guys have been to Plymouth Rock, right? Have you been to Plymouth Rock yet? Oh, that's too bad. You got to get there, to the Pilgrim Village. But what do we connect with the pilgrims? Thanksgiving, right? They were seeking another country where they might worship God according to their convictions, according to biblical conviction. And these people realized that their life on earth was a pilgrimage. And we're on a pilgrimage too. We don't want to get too comfortable because we're going to another city. And we're going to a place wherein dwells righteousness. Well, just for a minute, let's just consider a little of the pilgrim heritage, because actually we connect with them because they're in the same family as we are. They're children of Abraham, and so are we. So we're kind of connected to them. Same spiritual family, but when they left England, they were facing a very uncertain future. I don't know if you've ever done anything in life that you're taking a real step into the unknown. Well, they were leaving homeland, loved ones. Not to mention the dangers on the sea. It was probably the worst time of the year to travel by sea. And they're facing all kinds of dangers in an unknown land. I mean, I don't know if you've ever meditated on some of that, but there were a lot of obstacles to this journey. There were even hostilities from those who transported them. Some of the sailors gave the pilgrims a hard time. And then when they first arrived at First Encounter Beach, they met some hostile Indians. I mean, everything about that trip was pretty bad. I mean, when we think we're having a hard time or a hard day or something, went on. And then they were facing a cold winter ahead with slim provision, not much provision. And there was sickness there. Almost half of the pilgrims died that first year. I think around almost 48, 49 of them died that year. And before the year was, or by the next spring, I think 48 or 49 of them had died. So there were hardships of every kind, many fears, longing for the loved and known that they had left. And there was no certain dwelling place waiting for them there. Now let's consider the pilgrim in Scripture. This is just a couple minutes. I'm going to let you share with me tonight. So, in Hebrews chapter 11 and verse 13, talking about the pilgrims of faith here. Hebrews 11:13 says, "These all died in faith, that having received the promises, but having seen them afar off, and were persuaded of them, and embraced them, and confessed that they were strangers and pilgrims on the earth." Is that our confession? We're strangers and pilgrims on the earth. Do you confess that? I guess the pilgrims have a special place in my heart. I came from the pilgrim state, so. And going on to verse 14, "For they that say such things declare plainly that they seek a country. And truly, if they had been mindful of that country from whence they came out, they might have had opportunity to have returned." And that is another interesting little fact about the pilgrims here, that when the ship left the following spring, not one of them wanted to return with the ship. They all wanted to stay. In spite of, they could have gone back. They could have had opportunity. And even in Scripture, you find a lot of places where God gave opportunity for people to go back. Was it in their heart to? They could have gone back. But they wanted to persevere. They didn't want to return. Were they thankful? Well, I'd have to say yes, they were thankful. Truly thankful for God and God alone. I mean, that was about what they had, was God and God alone. They were thankful to be able to worship and to express their love to God and follow the convictions that God had given them from His Word. I think, we can all pick up on that line, because we can be thankful for this thought alone, that all things work together for good to those who love Him and to those who are called by according to His purpose. When everything else fails, every day I just happen to glance at the clock, and when I see 8:28 up there on the clock, it makes me feel good, because it reminds me of Romans 8:28. All things work together for good to those who love God and are the called. All things are working together for good. Even some of the bad things are working together for the good. God has a purpose in everything that He does. So we can be thankful for all things that come into our life, as long as we know that we're in the will of God. As long as I know I'm in the will of God and God has put me in this scene, I can be thankful. I know God's hand is on me. So the question is now, what are you thankful for this evening?